This week on the YouTube channel, we're going to be reviewing The Phantom, the complete DC Comics Volume number 3 by Hermes Press. This book from this series, there are 3 books in this series. We'll have them all listed in a playlist. And I've already looked at book 1, I've looked at book 2, and now it's time for book 3. This book is such a high quality book. Just look at it. It's so thick, you can hear it there right now. You know by hearing that noise, it's a high quality book. It's thick, it is big, and just look at that spine. It's really, really nice. Really, really nice. You know, nice books have nice spines. Oh, but it's true. It's true. Nice books have nice spines, book-wise. So that's the back cover of the book. This is the front cover, and let's have a look at the last book in this series by Hermes Press. Hermes Press reprinted this entire series from the DC Comics, the Phantom series, a couple of years back. I've been wanting to have a look at this series for a very, very long time. I got them when they came out, and I have been wanting to read them for years. And now that I've read them, it's time to have a look at the third one. So the contents of this book. The introduction, the adventure continues. We have the Phantom in covers for the issues. From issue 9 to 13, this Phantom series is from series number 2. There are 2 series. The first series had 4 books in total, 4 comics, and the next series, the second series, had 13 issues in the second series in total. We have, stories-wise, all the art is done by Luke McDonnell. It's written by Mark Verheiden, and the artwork for all the stories is done by Luke McDonnell. Pencils and inks. Now, the colors are done by Anthony Tolan. I was about to say Tolanwood. It's Tolanwood. But the stories include Trains, was published in 1989. And then we have Blind, was published in 1989. We have Famine, was published on the 11th of January, 1990. And then we have Framed, Part 1, issue came out in February 1990. And then we have Framed Part 2. Yes, Part 2. We have in issue number 13, we have Framed Part 2, came out in March 1990. And then we have an interview with the legendary GOAT himself, the greatest of all time, the greatest of all Phantom writers, Lee Falk. Interview with Spike Barkin. And that's at the end of the book. It is quite an interesting interview, actually. This is the introduction of the adventure continues. That is one of the most well-known pictures of all time of the Phantom. It's the opposite page. It's the cover to the DC Comics The Phantom, issue number 1 from 1988, done by Joe Orlando, pencils, and Dave Gibbons with the inks. Really, really nice. Really, really nice. When you think of the Phantom and you look it up on the internet, you see this image straight away. And now let's get into the Phantom story. Young people like to take risks. We all do, really. We all do. Unless you like those people that are not that adventurous. And most of those people are introverts. Yeah. But anyways, young kids like to take risks. And some people like to go on trains to make sure, oh yeah, I'm brave. I just went on a train and I'm going to be making myself into like this big group of people. I'm a man now. I just went on a train. I survived it. But kids always don't really, they underestimate the consequences that come with taking risks. And of course, this kid who jumped on a train, he says, oh yeah, I did it. And then, yeah, he touches the electrical cords up top, and yeah, doesn't end well. Does not end well. There's the ultimate high of highs And then there's the realization of, oh no, he's not with us anymore. So there's the lowest of lows as well. And then there's the realization of, oh, here, you can do it as well. And then they think that because of peer pressure that they have to go and do it themselves again. And everyone, except the kids, already know the consequences that come with doing tasks and risks, and even things that come after doing with peer pressure. The Phantom, he goes and he tries and works out, why are these kids risking their lives on trains? And then he hears about this task that these kids are doing, this initiation test, this test to become, oh yeah, I'm a man now. So the Phantom, he goes and talks to them. They don't really listen because, you know, kids, they don't tend to take everything in. We all know that. But then he remembers that there was this particular person. He couldn't be swayed. And then he had a battle with the Phantom. And you know how sometimes that battle doesn't end that well. The Phantom just narrowly escapes certain death. And in return of that favor that the Redbeard had done for the Phantom, he becomes the first leader and commander of the Jungle Patrol. So that's the story that came out with that as well. And then other people go and see the other people, and then they're trying to create a diversion. The Phantom then whacks another person for not taking action. He goes and does another person trying to figure out what all this train business is about. He nearly gets blamed himself. So at the end of this, he makes sure that the kids don't take this test. And the reason why the kids were taking this test is so that they could create a diversion for the adults to go in and get all the drug supplies. Now, these drug supplies, these medicines, these things that people need were going to be sold to someone else to profit off these medicines. These medicines other sick kids needed, and people couldn't work out where all these medicines were coming from, but not actually getting to the people that needed it. They were pretty much, the other people, the bad people, were pretty much playing a card of life and death. And without these medicines, a lot of them wouldn't have survived. So they would have got dealt the card of, not good. And then we have another story called Blind. And this is a story where a lot of the tribe people are blind. So because they are blind, a lot of people tend to think, oh yeah, they can't see, that we can just order them around and take advantage of them. So the Phantom hears of this. He goes and seeks whoever this is that is wanting to come and meet with him. He goes and seeks out this village. He goes and tries and make sure that these people are not being taken advantage of. He finds an old person, and then he finds the camp, and he pretty much destroys that camp. He releases these people of their captors, and he ends up making sure that they do not come back, and they go to the Jungle Patrol, and they end up in jail. Because it is no one should ever be taken advantage of. No one needs to be doing that. And if you're ever doing that, well, shame on you. Shame on you. No one needs to be doing that. Everyone has a right to do their own thing, do their own stuff in this world, and no one ever should be making a person's decision for another person. Never ends well. If you do make a person's decision, well, you either you help them in whatever decision they want to make. You make sure that you're not taking advantage of people. That's the key here. We have another story which is called The Phantom. Folks, The Phantom. And it's called Famine. Now, I've heard a story about this series particular and Lee Falk. Lee Falk, I've heard stories where Lee Falk was like openly out and said, "Oh, I've heard about this series that DC is publishing, and I don't like the way that the Phantom is basically shooting to kill. But he's not trying to shoot to kill, he's just trying to disarm his opponent." And when you really think about it, when you look at all the stories that Lee Falk has written, when all the stories that he's written, you really think about him. If the Phantom is like a couple of centimeters off, his arm, his another person's weapon, immediately you go straight into a person's arm, you go straight into a person's rib cage, and it potentially, if he's not this accurate, if he's not accurate by just a millimeter, he's gonna do some damage. The Phantom is. But every time he uses his guns and his weapons to make sure that the people who are doing the bad things are disarmed. So he can go in there and go, "Ooh, skull mark." So we got famine, and there are people trying to get aid to these people that really, really need it. And there are other people that are stopping that aid. So the Phantom, he goes and he says, "Well, I don't like this. I'm going to change it." So he goes there, he changes it, and look at that. I use that image as one of the season images of one of my seasons of The Enthusiast podcast season. So yeah, that's where that image came from. So yeah, but The Enthusiast season 9 is wrapping up. Basically, by the time this comes out, it will already have wrapped up. But yeah, season 9 of The Enthusiast. The Enthusiast is a show on YouTube that I make personally, and it's basically the best podcast on the Phantom ever. It's always the best. I try to put a lot of work and a lot of effort into it. And yeah, I think it's probably one of the best podcasts and probably the best up-to-date news, discussion topics, anything you want to think about, it's probably on there. But anyways, sorry for the plug. Sorry for the sly plug with that image. But anyways, The Enthusiast, it's on Phantom Cave Reviews on the YouTube channel, and it's in the podcast section of the YouTube channel. So if you want to go and view it, we've got 9 seasons of The Enthusiast. This is just a little plug, and now we're back to the story. So he goes and helps the people that are trying to make sure that these kids, these people, are not getting aid. So there are higher people up here trying to make sure that the lower people never receive the aid. And the Phantom is like, "Hey, what are you doing? What? Oh yeah, I come for lunch. I come for dinner." "No, I didn't. I'm gonna make sure you deliver this aid." And so his butler, his assistant, bam bam, and then he goes on a plane. That Phantom then tackles onto that plane, and then he jumps, and well, yeah, he jumps and he rips the fuel ledge off so he can't go any further. He lands, his plane ends up landing in the sand. So if the Phantom doesn't do it, you know, dehydration, and natural elements, I just gotta say, "Hello, I'm dehydration. I'm natural elements. Hello, how are you? Ta-ta. Ta-ta now." And the sand just says, "Oh yeah, the sand just come here a little bit further. There's a little bit of a lake just there in the distance. And when you get to that lake in the distance, just make a little bed in the sand and we'll take care of you. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be excellent. You're gonna have a great time. Now sleep." Oh, dearie me. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. The next story is Framed, Part 1. The Phantom goes to this village. He hears this guy that's been framed, and he goes to this village. He hears about these people. They've been... Basically, there's a dictatorship. That dictatorship doesn't want to leave anything out on the table. They want to take everything for themselves. The Phantom goes there. He's framed as one of the bad people. When he goes there, he's been hunted down time and time again because of these particular presidents and President Luaga. They do not like President Luaga. They do not like some of the values and some of the different methods and some of the different strategies that he's bringing in from the Western world. That because they are brung in from the Western world, they don't like it at all. And then they see this purple-clad figure. He's leaving this building, and all of a sudden, he's framed, and he doesn't know how to get out of it. He runs like a rat. He's scurrying around, and there is another person, and he says, "Excellent, excellent. I love a parade." And he's captured. The Phantom's captured. And even better. So, these guns that were used to kill President Loaga, or another president, for that much, can't be traced, cannot be touched. So we have framed number 2. The Phantom is about to receive his punishment. The Sankara killer is found. The Phantom's about to be dealt out a big, massive blow. The Diana comes out. She says, "Oh, here's the key." And then the Phantom gets out. And then he goes and looks. He finds who he wants. And he ends up then taking another person on his wayside and says, "Yeah, you're not getting through me, Phantom. I don't believe in you." And he goes and talks to another old dude. And he says, "Well, look who it is." The Phantom then punches the crap out of him. And then after all of that, the Phantom goes back home. He's wanting to be at home. He's going to be married to Diana. And yes, in the DC Phantom comics, in this series depicts the wedding differently to how it was depicted in the 1977 story of the Phantom Wedding from the newspapers. And yes, if this series had have continued on from past issue 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, however many issues, if it had have been continued, I wonder if other storylines may have come into the fold, like the Phantom's wedding, and it's just cool to see a different perspective on the wedding story. And this picture right here, this picture is probably one of the most, if not, this wedding part of this story at all, I think is, in a way, for me, better, I say better, than the original wedding Phantom story. Yep, I've said that. And I like how there's a different take on the story itself. And I like how the art is different. I like how the art is interpreted in a new and different way. And I love this image just here. It's just, real wholesome. And then they said, "And then only the two of us. And thanks to Lee Falk, the end." It's just the greatest way to finish this story and finish this series, really, just with this soul image of the Phantom and Diana basically in love. It's a lovely photo, lovely sketch, a lovely piece of art. Lovely. Just lovely. You know that even though these characters aren't real, deep down inside of you, there's just when you say something like that, there's a little bit of warmth coming to your heart when you see something like that. It's really, really nice. Really nice. The Lost City. I love how they've just put that in there. The Phantom, the Lost City. Just chapter 14. It's not chapter 1, or 2, or 5, or 10. Just 14. Why not? And we have an interview with Lee Falk. Quite an interesting interview, actually. I read all of it, really. And it's quite an interesting interview. It's quite an interesting way of reading it, but you feel like you're like looking into the person's mind itself. You know what I'm talking about? If you don't, well, oh well. And Spike, good old Spike Bar, good old Spikey. He asks some pretty interesting questions. Quite an interesting questions. I do like how they've included the interview in its entirety. That's also quite nice as well. And there are some things where you could say that, ooh, Lee Falk, you're a bit savage. Who knows? I didn't meet him, don't know him in person, because, I became a Phantom fan in 2016, and Lee Falk, well, yeah, he is obviously no longer here in planet Earth. He passed away in 1999. So, if say I was able to, time machine, time warp back to 1999, I think there'd probably be a good amount of, we'll be able to do it. But no, we're not able to. Okay, I'm going to put out a question. If you were able to have access to a time machine, where would you go in the past of history? What year would you go to? Would you go back to, say, the 90s? Would you go back to the 60s? Or would you go back to, I guess, the 50s, when the Phantom was at its peak and at its golden era, basically? I would go to multiple decades. I would go to a lot of the historical scenes, like a lot of the famous historical ones, and I would go back to get particular issues of the Phantom, probably from 1948, to go and get the first issue of the Phantom published in Australia. But yeah, I would definitely probably go back to the 60s because of the Beatles, and I would definitely go back to the 80s because the 80s had a lot of the best movies come out. Like Ferris Bueller's Great Day Off. It came out in the 80s, and it's one of the best films ever. A lot of great films came out in the 80s. I'd go back to the 90s because obviously you got to change between Seymour Barry, ending his career, and just Rickson, really. And you've got to change between 1995 and the next two that would come afterwards, which is Olsen and Williams. So yeah, that's what I would do. What would you do if you had access to a time machine? That is my question, and that is my comic book review of this book and this series. This series has been one of the greatest series, one of the books of the year. I have so much appreciation for this series from DC Phantom Comics from the late 80s and early 90s. I have so much appreciation for this series now, and I just want to say thank you for watching this video. I know it was a long one. This review was quite lengthy, but thank you. Thank you for watching this, and as always, keep thinking, Caven, stay safe, and I will see you next time on the YouTube channel really soon.